Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hockey fans around the world, welcome back to the O Show. Today we are talking about the Vancouver Canucks, and no, that will not always be the intro, it's a work in progress. Now today, I like to wear like a shirt or something, because I don't own a shirt for all the teams, not even close to it. I only own a shirt or a jersey for probably like 5% of the teams in the league. So I try to do something creative. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt, it's because what I've heard is Vancouver is like the Hollywood of Canada. So Disney makes movies, and it's the closest I could get to Hollywood. So today, the Vancouver Canucks season preview. Now, this is a team that I've come to a conclusion about at the end of this video that I'll share with you. But let's talk about the good before the bad. Of course, the pros of this team is Thatcher Demko. Thatcher Demko, an absolutely stud of a goaltender, and he's young still. He's young and still growing as a goaltender, and this guy, I think he's way underrated. I mean, I know he's on a hard team to play with. Guys like Vasilevsky and Shesterkin get talked about, but they have so much help in front of them, that when they do get called upon, they only need to make so many saves. Put them on the Vancouver Canucks and see how well they do. Probably really good. But Thatcher Demko's the type of goaltender that, to me, if he was put on the Rangers or the Lightning or the Hurricanes, this guy would absolutely shine. And people would be like, well, he's actually the best in the world. But he's not a tough team to deal with. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, why I believe that. Other pros are top players like JT Miller, who, so interestingly, is talked about being traded away. Now, the Canucks have said that they don't think they need to move him out before the trade deadline. But my question is, why do they need to move him out? I don't understand. I mean, I understand kind of why teams like the Senators would trade away like Carlson and Stone and Hoffman and the Duchesne. Like, I kind of understand, but also at the same time don't make any sense of why they would trade these players away. I guess if the Senators are thinking this is the end of an era, they need to trade them away to get a better draft pick or something. But this team is in an era, kind of. They have Peterson, or Pedersen, however you say it, Brock Besser, Horvat, Garland. I mean, you've got Hughes. You've got players, Demko. You've got guys on this lineup. The future is now with this team. But that's where the problem kind of lies. That's the end of the pros right there, is that the cons is that they don't really have a great deal of depth. And they aren't like the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Oilers, where their front line is enough to hold them back. On paper and through imagination, you probably think Pedersen and Horvat and Miller and Garland and Besser are probably pretty good, especially with Pedersen in there. Peterson, whatever his name is. He said it's Peterson, but people still say Pedersen. But Peterson, I mean, you would think that this is a top line, but really, he only gets 68 points, and that's not... Nikita Kucherov got 69 points in 48 games, I think. Peterson took 80 games and only got 68 points. And then you've got Brock Besser, a guy that could have been the next big goal scorer. Only 46 points, sorry. I know that looks like a zero. 23 goals, 23 assists. Bo Horvat, 52 points. These are second-line numbers, and that's where they are on the second line, yet these guys are supposed to be the future of this team. To me, I mean, I think to everyone else too, like, this is obviously not working. These players are not working. It kind of reminds me of Calgary, where you had Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Lindholm, and, Bennett and stuff. Like, maybe it's just a fact that sometimes, like, it's just the wrong combination of people. In my eyes, I think the problem here is that Peterson, Horvat, and Besser are great players, except they're on the wrong team. These guys would be perfect pairings with another person, but not these guys. These are all, like, pairing players in my eyes. I feel like, kind of like how Backstrom is to Ovechkin. Backstrom isn't the centerpiece, and he wouldn't be. If you put Backstrom alongside, I don't know who, like, he's not the star. You need that Alex Ovechkin player to push them to that next level. And this team, none of those guys are that person to elevate all of their games together. And I think that's the main problem, is that this team offensively is the most mediocre team in the league. And I have proof because they are literally right in the middle of the league in goals for. When it comes to goals for, they're right in the middle. And then when it comes to goals against, I think this is where it really shows how good like Thatcher Demko is that they're at 8th. They are 8th, right behind the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is what type of contention they're in for goals against. Sure, they're behind them, but they're literally by like 2 or 3 goals behind those 2 teams that went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, they obviously have defense down. And by looking at it, I mean, Ekman-Larsson, sure, he's not as great as he used to be, but, I mean, he's still kicking. Myers, I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, sometimes big guys don't need to get points. They just got to be intimidating, and he seems intimidating to me. Hughes, 68 points. That's huge for Hughes. I think Hughes is underrated. I think he's pretty phenomenal. Shen, he's okay. He's growing. Dermott and Burrows, I don't really know who Burrows is, but Dermott, solid. Like, these are solid defensemen, and they have that role-playing. They have roles, unlike a team like I see in Toronto, where Toronto's defense is a lot of two-way sit-on-your-hands defensemen is what I call them. This team actually has Hughes and Larson, and then you've got like guys like Myers and Shen and Dermott. Like, you have like physical people along with actual playmaking people. And that is what I like about this defense. And it works. And obviously it pays out because they're 8th in goals against, right behind Colorado and Tampa Bay. Obviously, they're doing everything right down here. Up here is where I think they need to shake things up. I think this team, if they need to shake it all up. Like, in my head, it's been way too long. Besser has obviously proven he's not the goal scorer. Horvat is not the playmaker. And Peterson is stalling. So, what does this team need to do? In my eyes, I don't think you need to blow it all up. I don't think you get rid of all 3 of those guys. But I feel like you need to move out like Besser. Move out Besser and try to bring in like an established young goal scorer. I don't really know who that would be. I mean, in my mind, you could try to do like, I mean, this probably wouldn't go because the way they think. But, like, in my eyes, this team would have been great for, like, to pick up, like, Alex DeBrincat, which I didn't even know they were looking on moving on from. But Alex DeBrincat would have been great for this team to add some speed, a guy that can really, like, push a team forward, get the puck, skate, and skill, and that set up these guys that are good. These players are good. It's just they need that guy to elevate their offense together, and they don't really have that. And JT Miller, the one guy that almost got to 100 points, 1 point shy, is being talked about being moved on from. So the question for me about this team is this a playoff team? Because overall, like, this is the type of team. This is a mediocre team in my eyes. They finish right outside the playoffs, but they're 18th. They place 18th in the league. They're right outside the playoffs, but they're far from being at the bottom of the league. This is the most mid team in the league, and that's what I got. The Vancouver Canucks are the definition of mid. Well, I guess by 2 notches. I guess 2 up, they would be the definition of mid, but they made it into the playoffs, which is better than what they did. So, the Canucks, I think that what they did this year was their potential. Because they have potential. They do, like Besser, Horvat, Peterson, Miller, Garland. Like, these guys, and now they pick up Mikheyev. These guys have some potential, but I feel like they're just not hitting that mark, and that's because they don't have those established players to lift them to that point. That's why you have like guys like DeBrincat that can get so many points. It's because they have like a Patrick Kane to play with, established players. You wouldn't see DeBrincat getting these type of points if he played along with like Kirby Dach. You see what I'm saying? And I've talked about this in other teams, is that they're missing that player to elevate their young players' games. And I think this team would benefit from picking one of those type of players up, like a Patrick Kane, which I don't see happening. I don't think they could pick up him. But that's the type of player I think this team would do really well with, is if they can pick up an established player that can really elevate everyone else's game, like a Jonathan Huberdeau. Obviously, that trade wouldn't work because they feel like they'd have to give up like Pedersen and Besser, and that would have been way too much people to lose. But they need to pick up one of those type of players, an established veteran, to push these guys forward. And they had that in the Sedins, and I know that was a long time ago, but that's kind of the age that you need to bring up your young players. You need to have your, like, 2 top guys, so the Sedins, and pair the young guys with them to elevate their game, so when those guys retire, they can take their place instead of still growing. And these guys, just gonna say, they've stalled. I don't know if they will get better than this with this team. So, is this a playoff team? I don't think so. They have the best chances of any of the divisions to maybe get in one in the Pacific, but teams like Vegas, teams like Oilers, teams like the Flames, the Ducks, the Kings, there's too many factors with this team basically staying the same. Sure, they pick up Kuzmenko and Mikheyev, but I don't think those guys are going to change very much for the team. So unless these guys can finally step up their game to the potential that they could be playing at, Pettersson being like maybe an 80 to 90 points guy, Horvat, I feel like could get to 60, and Besser at least getting 30 to 40 goals. I think 40 should be like his ceiling. Then they could get there. But other than that, I feel like this team is going to be once again right outside the playoffs. Right outside. Looking in, only like 5 points short. And even if they did make it to the playoffs, this is not a playoff team. But that's really all I have to say about the Vancouver Canucks for this video. So if you like this video, please pick up your free subscription down below. Make sure you leave a like, not a dislike. You go down below to the comment section and leave any comments, concerns, suggestions, reviews, or other sorts of feedback. And until next time, I have been Owen. Too sweet. And ta-ta for now.